We need a bedside stand for my son's room. We want it to be a simple design, have an open front, and have a mix of bold color and exposed wood. Let's figure out one way to make it. I got my tools together and started with a fresh piece of 3/4 inch birch plywood. I measured and marked 2 lines on the plywood, one 18 inches from the edge, this is the line I want to cut, and one 22 inches from the edge, this is the line I will attach my straight edge to. Any straight board will work fine as a straight edge, but plywood or metal will have a lot better chance of starting straight and staying straight over time than a standard 2x4 would. I clamped the straight edge in place, 4 inches from the cut line. 4 inches is the distance from the edge of my bed to the blade on my circular saw. Make sure to check the distance on your saw before making this cut, as they all vary. I rest the edge of the bed of my saw to the straight edge and cut my line. I clamped a shorter straight edge to my 8-foot by 18-inch board. Then I cut this down the center, making 2 18 by 48-inch pieces. I tried to be as precise as possible on this cut because I planned to use these as finished edges so the grain would flow continuously when assembled. With my pieces now at manageable sizes, I moved to the table saw. I cut the panels to their finished sizes, which are 16 inch on each side. I decided which side of each board would be the top, bottom, front, and back. Marked them so I wouldn't forget, and cut 45-degree miters into 2 sides of each board. I wanted to cut a rabbet into each panel so the box would accept a back panel. Using a scrap board for reference, I lowered the table saw blade to 3/8 of an inch and set the fence a 1/2 inch from the outside of the blade. The table saw blade is 1/8 of an inch thick, so I made the first cut into each of the panels, then moved the fence 1/8 of an inch closer to the blade, made another cut, and repeated this 2 more times until I was at the edge of the board. You could achieve these same results with a dado stack on the table saw or a rabbeting bit and a router. There are a lot of ways to make this cut. This is just one way. I used a chisel to clean up the areas the table saw didn't take care of. The box is ready to be glued up, and for this I'm going to use a method to clamp the box together using painter's tape. This method is very simple and works great for mitered boxes. First, lay your pieces out with the mitered edges down and the grain facing the direction you want it to. Start adding tape to your seams. Use plenty of tape and apply it both vertically and horizontally to the seams. Flip the boards over, and as long as everything stays in place, start adding glue to your mitered edges. Fold the box together and tape the remaining side. I like to add my back panel at this time to add structure and make sure the box is a square and not a parallelogram. I let the glue dry overnight, and the next day pulled off the tape and was ready to sand. I used 220 grit sandpaper and went lightly over all the sides of the box, the corners, and the front face. Unfortunately, I had some gaps in a couple of my corners. I decided to fill them with some wood filler, but after it was dry and sanded, it blended right in with the rest of the box. Now to cover up that flowing grain I worked so hard for. My son wanted to go with the red paint on the outside of the box and to keep the inside exposed wood. I used a spray-on spar urethane inside the box to protect the wood, and decided to add a coat to the paint as well, so that the sheen of the paint matched the wood and to hopefully keep the paint from chipping over time. With the box sealed up, we could install the legs. We decided to buy legs for this project and went with 2-rod hairpin legs that we bought from a company called Semi-Exact. This is the third project I've done with their products, and so far I've been very happy with all of them. I used the screws that came with the legs to screw through the bottom of the box into the panels on the sides and back of the box. I used shorter 3/4 inch screws for the front edge. I painted the front edge of the nightstand the same red as the outside faces. This was the last step of our original plan, and we were ready to move it into place, but we felt like something was still missing. The bedside stand will set between my son's bed where he sleeps and his TV where he plays video games. We want to add something that will distinguish one area from the other and fit the theme of gaming. We used a bowl to make a circle for the head, a box to make a line for the mouth, and some plus-shaped decals that we had left over from an accent wall for the eyes. We painted on the face, stuck down the decals, and moved the box back to the workshop for the next step. We still want the bedside stand to be open-faced and have the ability to hold tall items inside, but to add more versatility, we decided to add an adjustable shelf. I used a shelf pin drilling jig from Craig to drill holes for pins in the front and back of both sides of the bedside stand. This process wasn't that hard, but would have been way easier to do before I glued the bedside stand together. I cut a shelf that would set in 2 inches from the front edge, installed the pegs, and tested to see if the shelf fit. We bought a set of alphabet stencils and taped them together to make the 2 words we were looking for. We taped the stencils to the box, painted inside them, pulled off the tape, and for the second time, this project was complete. It's a simple design, it was easy to build, and it has a bit of a vintage or retro vibe that we really like. I can't help but think of a 70s era TV set whenever I look at it. If you have any thoughts or questions, you can leave them in the comments. And as always, thanks so much for watching.